All right. Well, good morning and welcome to the Employability Skill Series, where we explore the top skills employers are looking for in candidates. Each week, we will cover different topics with thoughts and insights from professionals in a variety of industries. I'm your host, Megan Morrow, Senior Associate Director of Experiential Learning and Employer Relations. Today, I have Greg Schell, Regional Vice President for Auto Owners, as my guest, and we will be discussing the importance of emotional intelligence in the workplace. Greg is the Regional Vice President of Auto Owners Insurance Company in the Lakeland region. He attended Winter Haven High School and received his bachelor's degree in 1983 from Florida Southern College with a major in business administration. After a couple of internships with insurance companies, Greg started his insurance career with Allstate's Insurance as a claims representative in Fort Lauderdale. He began his career with auto owners in November 1984 as a branch claims representative in Lakeland. During his 39 plus years career with auto owners, he's held positions in claims, marketing, and management. He's been fortunate to work in Florida, Iowa, Michigan, Illinois, and then finally back to Florida as regional vice president in 2004. Greg holds the CPCU and AIC designations. He is also a member of the Lakeland Rotary Club, board member of the local CPCU chapter, and president of board for Pace Center for Girls Polk, a local nonprofit organization. I don't know if I ever told you this, Greg, but I used to be their ESE teacher probably about 15 plus years ago at
Oh,
Polk and
wow.
Pace. Yeah.
Well, they've done a great job. It's a wonderful organization, as you know.
It really is. It really is. Greg is married to Cheryl of 35 years, and they have 3 children and 6 grandchildren. Hobbies include just about anything outdoors, including hunting, fishing, scuba diving, hiking, and attending grandkids' activities. Fun fact, Greg hiked the Grand Canyon from rim to rim, which is 23 miles, in one day with his 2 daughters. An amazing experience, although he did think he was going to die. So, good morning, Greg. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Oh, thank you for the invitation. And always enjoy getting in front of Florida Southern students since I am a graduate. So anytime I can interact with them, it's a wonderful day.
That's awesome. And the kids love, or I'm sorry, the students, I have a bad habit of doing that. It comes from my K-12 background, but the students really love talking with you every time you, and especially you and Edgar, when you guys come together, they always say how personable you are and how much they enjoy your talks and how they just feel really comfortable with you. So we love having you, that's for sure.
Well, that's great. Well, I'm really excited about this subject today, Megan, because emotional intelligence, it is something that I've done a little homework on this. And actually, I'm going to present this. We talk about this all the time at Auto Owners, but I'm going to present this in a little bit more formal setting to our folks because of this, preparing for this presentation. So hopefully the students will take something away from today.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And you have, I made your co-host, so you can share yours, or if you want me to share your PowerPoint, I can, however you want to do it.
Let's see if we can figure this out. All right, where's the one I want?
There we go.
All right, let me make sure I can advance it just fine. Here we go. Okay, so it's going to work. All right. Okay. Again, what a wonderful subject. Me and Edgar have been on campus multiple times talking about, life after college and preparing for life after college. And I think this subject, emotional intelligence, is one of the most important things you can take with you. It's something that is really quite interesting. Back in the old days, people that were really, really smart and really, really high IQs, people noticed that sometimes they were successful, but a lot of times they struggled in the business world. And they did some research on why are folks struggling in this area. So that is when they determined and they figured out emotional intelligence. So we're going to talk a little bit about what it is. So see if I can advance this. So what exactly is emotional intelligence? And I'll just read the definition, very simple. So EI is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage our own emotions, as well as recognize the emotions of others, which in the business world, we teach this all the time, is so important. In the old days, I look back at, ability to recognize, understand, and manage your emotions. When we were children, little toddlers, we didn't get our way. We'd have a temper tantrum. We didn't know. We were young. We were immature. And then as we grow, we learn you can't do that. And so we're going to talk about something that we can evolve, we can learn, we can get better at through practice. So it's all about understanding and recognizing emotions, your emotions and the emotions of others. And I hate to say this, folks, we're humans. We're controlled by our emotions. And there's a statistic out there that 2/3 of our actions are completely controlled by our emotions. So it's a matter of understanding those emotions and controlling those emotions to the best of your ability. All right. There are 5 key components to emotional intelligence, and I will cover these in detail in a minute. But they are self-awareness. And again, we're going to define these in a minute. Self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. Again, we'll talk about those in a minute. So, why? Why is emotional intelligence important? Why does it matter? But I'm going to tell you right now, it's probably one of the number one things we talk about when we bring in a new associate. We are talking about interacting with people, because unless you're data entry only, every position out there, you're interacting with people in some way. And emotional intelligence is understanding where they're coming from, understanding how you are being perceived and how you're projecting yourself. And it is critical in the business world. Also, very interesting, up to 90% of top performers in the business world have high emotional intelligence. So it's not something they're born with. It's something they've developed over time. And we'll talk a little bit about what that is. And also interesting, people with high emotional intelligence will outperform high IQs 70% of the time. And that gets back to that study I talked about, where you had very, very intelligent people, but they were struggling in the business world. Why are they struggling? Because they were smart, they could learn, they could retain, but they had low emotional intelligence. So let's talk about exactly what that is. So the 5 pillars we've talked about emotional intelligence. So let's go through those 5 pillars. Number 1, self-awareness. Recognizing your emotions and their impact on your performance. Wow. Like I said, 2/3 of us are controlled by our emotions. And we've all been in those situations where our emotions have gotten the best of us. I think we can all sit there and just kind of list them out. Happens all the time. We get upset, we get mad, we get jealous, whatever it might be. Our emotions have a tendency to control our actions, which controls our performance. When you're in the business world, you have to control your emotions. And I give you an example here. In the business world, a manager, hey, life is stressful, life's competitive. A manager understands their stress levels, and they're able to control that so they can think clearly and manage themselves accordingly. A student, for example, at Florida Southern, you have a big test coming up, very stressed. All right. The more stressed you get, the more wired you get, the more uptight you get, the less you can retain, the less you're able to perform. If you have the ability to control your emotions, understand your emotions, emotions are going to happen perfectly normal, but control them. You'll be able to think more clearly and perform better. 2/3 of people, I've talked about this, are controlled by their emotions. So very important to understand that. The second pillar of emotional intelligence is self-regulation. Now you understand a little bit more. You can kind of understand your emotions. Oh, am I angry? what is upsetting me? What am I thinking right now? Your ability to control those impulse feelings and behaviors. And for example, when I talked about the toddler who had the temper tantrum, young, unable to control his impulses. His impulse was to have a temper tantrum because he didn't get what he wants. You cannot do that in the business world, as you know, or in college, or in pretty much life in general, for that matter. So you have to control your impulse. I can't tell you how many times we've all been there where somebody upsets us, or we don't like what they're saying, or we think we need to do it a different way. We need to control those feelings and do not act impulse by impulse, because usually you will do the wrong thing. You have to control those feelings because they will lead to bad behaviors. If you control them, think about it, and respond accordingly, you'll have a much better outcome. A good example is our leader who remains calm during a crisis and is able to make thoughtful decisions. So crisis is a normal part of business. There's always something that comes up. It's a curveball. You're not expecting it. Well, stress level goes through the roof. Are you going to blow up? Are you going to handle it poorly? Or are you going to control your emotions, remain calm, analyze the situation, and move forward with thoughtful decisions? Very, very important to control and self-regulate your emotions. Motivation. I love this. I talk about this all the time. Motivation is a passion, love that word, for work that goes beyond money and status. Yeah. In other words, I can give you an assignment. I can kind of push you a little bit, but you control your level of motivation. I don't control it, you do. And in the life, I always say, if you're going to do something, do it to the best of your ability. You control your emotion, and you should always try to do something better than what is expected. Okay. People are driven to do a good job without constant external incentives. And those people in life and in the business world will get ahead because they're able to do I call it the little bit of extra things that people recognize and make a big deal. People expect you to do the big things, but it's the little things, that the little bit of detail, the little bit of extra, attention, making that phone call, spending a little bit more time with that person and explaining it a little bit more detail. Those kind of things make a big difference in life, and especially in the business world. Motivation. I should not constantly have to motivate my people. I expect them to develop their own motivation and do a good job just because they want to. And I shouldn't have to pay them every time they do every little thing. So motivation is a huge thing for me. Empathy. I can't tell you how important this is also. Empathy is the ability to understand others' feelings and perspectives. In claims, at Auto Owners, we have our claims department. Years ago, I was a claim rep. We're in the business of putting people's lives back together. We deal with people every day that have been through a traumatic event. They've either had an auto accident, we just had a bunch of hurricanes, so they've got storm damage. So, maybe there's a fire, maybe there's whatever. So they're very, very stressed out. They're very concerned about how this is all going to go. And when our reps call, first thing we teach them is put yourself in their shoes. Understand what they're going through. Have empathy for what they're going through. And we've all been there where we have somebody that we're interacting with, and you can tell they just don't care. They have zero empathy for what I'm going through, and it just really makes you mad. It really does. So I'm telling you what, if you can show empathy, oh, I understand what you're going through. Oh, I really am sorry for your loss. Those kind of things. I am here to do what I can to help you. I'm really, really sorry for what you're going through. Those things will make a big difference. It will calm that other person down and really kind of build a little bit of a relationship between you and that other individual.
Now,
Again, the example is always put yourself in the other person's shoes. Try to understand what they're going through and why they're thinking the way they're thinking. Megan, do you have a question?
yeah, Greg. So I love this. I think this is really important, but not to be confused with sympathy. So like between empathy and sympathy, like could you differentiate between the two of that for our students?
Well, sympathy, you just feel sorry for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you know, poor person. You know, something bad happened to him. I just feel sorry for him. Empathy is I am putting myself in their place. Try to understand what they're going through, and it's a big difference. We don't want you to be. We always want to be sympathetic towards somebody, but empathy, understand what they're going through. And a good example now, we just, you know, not to get political, we just had an election. There are people that are happy or people that are sad.
Right.
Well, why? You know, everybody has their own perspective. And if, you know, I'm hearing crazy things about people unfriending people because of how they voted or whatever. That's ridiculous because they are able to think the way they want to think. Try to put yourself in their shoes. So everybody needs to just calm down, try to understand what the other person is going through. And again, if you put yourself in their position, then you'll have a much more better understanding. A good example, you know, go to a restaurant, that waitress, they're doing the best they can. They got a bunch of tables they're taking care of, stressful, you know, and then maybe they don't get something just right and we blow up.
Yeah.
You know, really have empathy for what they are going through, you know, maybe point it out, but in a very polite way. But that's the difference is, you know, understand what that other person might be going through. And there's a lot more than you probably could see on the surface.
Yes,
so empathy is huge.
Great
very, very important.
Yeah, great distinction, Greg. Thank you.
Social skills. Oh, wow. Megan, you know, we talk about this all the time.
All the time.
Oh, my goodness. Social skills. What are social skills? Managing relationships to move people in desired directions. I would say in the business world, you've got to have social skills. If you don't have social skills, you need to develop social skills, and they can be developed. Actually, I work with my management team and our associates all the time. I was working with a manager yesterday, actually, very bright, articulate, intelligent. He has everything to be successful. And the thing we've been working on over the last few years is his social skills, his ability to interact with people. I always say it's like wallpaper. You know, people with poor social skills they're like wallpaper. They're there, but nobody notices them. So but get out of your comfort zone. Be willing to interact with people. Watch your body language. Have empathy. That comes out in your voice. And those are some things that you really have to interact with people, because in life and in business, it's a people world. It's a people business. You're going to have to interact with them. You're going to have to be able to have social skills. And in management, it's really, really interesting. We practice this all the time. Leadership. Getting people to do what you want them to do, right? So if you're a good leader, people will follow you, and you don't have to really motivate them that hard. They're already motivated to follow you. If you're not a good leader, you know what? You really have to, almost tell people what to do. So example of a good leader can influence others without having to resort to authority. In other words, I'm your boss, you go do this.
Yeah.
If you are a good leader and you have practiced good social skills, they're going to want to do whatever you want them to do without you having to exert your authority. I hope that makes sense.
It does. Yeah, like that followership. You have to gain that trust to get that followership to where, you know, that you're the buy-in to the mission and the vision is how I kind of see it.
Yeah. People have to know you care about them.
Yeah.
One of the first things we do when we come into work every day is we walk the floor. We talk to people. How was your weekend? Oh, your kids in baseball or dance, and oh, how's that going? I mean, we try to remember those things. if you show people you care, they will be an advocate for you. Oh man, it's so important. If people don't think you care, they're not going to follow you. You're not a good leader. You've
Yes,
got to show people that you care. Okay. So those are the 5 pillars of emotional intelligence. Now, practical applications. We talked about leadership, inspiring and motivate others. You've got to have emotional intelligence. You can't have just IQ. You've got to be able to interact with folks. Empathy, social skills, motivation, all that stuff plays into good leadership. Also, conflict resolutions. Think about it. That's what we do. We handle conflicts. Even if you're in a sales role, what if you're trying to sell something and that person on the other side isn't quite buying into what you're trying to sell? You're going to have to resolve whatever conflict is in their mind. So yeah, I don't care if it's on campus or in the business world, you have to resolve conflicts. And one of those, you're not always going to get your way, folks. Not always going to get your way. There are going to be disagreements. We have to have empathy, understand, and basically manage our emotions, because sometimes if there's conflict, people get heated, they get excited. And when they get excited, they lose their control of their emotions, and then bad things happen. You have to keep controlling your emotions. And then, of course, in addition to leadership, conflict resolution, teamwork. In the world, you have to get along with others. So we have 250 people here in this building. They got to get along. And so you got to go in, you have to work with your teammates, understand everybody is different, and everybody is different every day. I might have somebody that comes in today and they're just, something happened and they're not in a good mood. And then the next day they might be just fine. So you have to be prepared for just about anything. All right. So how do we develop emotional intelligence? Well, there are a few things you can do. Practice, practice, practice. So you got to be mindful. So be aware of your thoughts and emotions. It's a hard thing to do. But when you're out there interacting with folks and you're starting to feel like you're losing a little, or you're starting to feel an emotion, recognize it. Am I happy? Am I sad? What's going on here? Recognize your emotions and be mindful of those. Reflect on experiences. Those that like to journal, you can write it down, or just remember about past conflicts or successes. How did I handle those? How did we resolve those? Did I handle it correctly? Did I not handle it correctly? All right. So past experiences will help guide the future. Seek feedback. Ask feedback from your peers, your mentors, others. How did I handle that situation? Could I have handled it better? How was I perceived? And remember, perception is reality.
Yes, so, I love that saying. Yes.
It really is. I mean, I have the best of intentions, but if I'm perceived in a certain way, that is how that person is going to take it. So be mindful of that. So ask feedback. I love it. Whenever I do a presentation, I usually will ask somebody how to go. And I expect and I want them to have honest feedback, because if there's something that didn't go just right, I want to correct that in the future. Practice active listening. That is so important in today's world. Most people are very, very bad at that. And a good example is, I am one of the worst at this. When I meet somebody new, right? They introduce themselves to me. If you ask me to repeat their name 5 seconds later, I could probably not do it, because I was not actively listening at the time.
Yes.
So you have to actively listen, focus fully, and I mean fully, on the speaker, the person you're interacting with. Good body language, good people skills, and they can tell if you're listening or not. We all can. Your eyes will give it away.
Yes.
If I'm talking to somebody and they've kind of zoned out a little bit, I can tell immediately. And so active.
They get that glassy eyes, they're like,
well, they look away, glassy eye thing, all that. We've all been there, and we've all done it.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you a little lesson about names. Names is the big one. People love to hear their name. So when somebody are introduced to somebody, they go, "Hi, I'm Greg." Repeat their name more than once. So, Greg, my name is, whatever. My name, I really enjoyed meeting you. So, and then in your mind, repeat it, Greg, and then try to associate it with maybe somebody else or something. Little things like that will help you remember people's names. But again, listen, actively listen. It's one of the critical things that a lot of people are very, very bad at. Okay. AI in the future of business. I'm gonna tell you, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. It is probably one of the biggest things that are now being emphasized in the business world are the soft skills. And I always, when we interview people, high GPAs obviously are important. You got to get the interview. You got to get looked at. But once you come into the interview, that all kind of goes away. Now what we're doing is we're looking for the soft skills. How does that person interact? Are they articulate? How do they handle themselves in a setting like an interview or in a social setting? So those are very, very, very important. Soft skills, and that might be something, Megan, we can have a workshop on at some point, is soft skills workshop. That'd be great.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'd love to.
Companies, we're seeking individuals with strong leadership roles. Leaders, again, top performers are people with good emotional intelligence. They understand their emotions. They can control them. So again, if you want to be a leader, that's what companies are looking for. People with strong emotional intelligence. And this is kind of interesting too. Technology. Everyday technology evolves. And in my world and in all the other worlds out there, technology is taking over and able to do a lot of the, I would call them almost basic tasks or menial tasks. However, there are still going to be people out there we need to interact with people, to make decisions, complex decisions that artificial intelligence cannot do, and basically show empathy and do all those things that a computer cannot do. A computer doesn't show empathy. It doesn't have soft skills. It just does what you tell it to do.
Yeah.
A human being has all that other stuff that we need. So there will always be a need for humans out there. Technology cannot do everything, but that is a big deal. Make yourself, I would say, invaluable, because technology is going to take over some people's jobs out there. But if you have strong emotional intelligence, good people skills, you can think critically in stressful situations. You are motivated to do more than what they ask you to do. All those things will make you so important to that organization that no level of technology can replace you. Very, 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 very important.
Yeah, it's important.
Okay, takeaways. Emotional intelligence is essential for effective leadership and workplace success. You've got to have it. Developing emotional intelligence requires commitment and continual practice. It's not something you're just going to learn and all of a sudden, oh, I'm emotionally intelligent. No, it's something, it just doesn't happen. I'm always having to check my emotions, and you're always practicing it. But recognizing is a big thing. Success in business is about people. I don't care what it is. It's about people. Emotional intelligence is all about people, your emotions, understanding yours and understanding theirs. And emotional intelligence is the key to understanding people. So if you wanted to take a test, there are several tests that are out there. They are assessment tests. Some are free, some cost you a little bit of money. Very, very interesting. I did some research on this. I took a test, and it's kind of interesting. But here are some sites. I think they're free. Everything from 2 minutes to 45 minutes. So one's 10 minutes long, but it's a series of questions, and it will kind of help give you a little bit of idea from an assessment test standpoint what your emotional intelligence level is.
I
So,
love
but
that.
I personally love the.
Yeah, I'm gonna be doing these. Thank you for sharing
Yeah, it might
that.
be kind of fun. If you got nothing else to do, take a 10-minute test and see what your emotional intelligence is. But I'm a firm believer, tests are great. It's practical, in-person, daily application that will, is really how you develop your emotional intelligence. But again, emotional intelligence, control your emotions. Your emotions control you. If you can control what controls you, I think you'll be very successful in your business world. So
Yeah.
with that, I'm open to any questions you might have.
I really like that. I know one of the things I say a lot, and I know it's cliche, but I just really firmly believe that, like, life is, 10% like what actually happens and 90% like how you respond to it or what you do with what happened. And instead of just waiting around for, making life happen to you, like making it happen for you. That's been my mantra like the past couple months. So I love this. This is a great talk. I know we have Javier here on the call with us and the rest is our team, but does anybody have any questions they'd like for Greg to answer about this a really awesome topic? I'm gonna stop sharing this and put the other one up so that in case anybody needs the QR code. Okay. All right. Any questions or comments for our guest here for today? All right. Well, as always, Greg, it is always such a pleasure. Really enjoyed this. This was, I learned a lot. This was really cool. And I really appreciate you taking the time to share this with us. And students that are on the call, you can either scan the QR code on the screen or I put the URL in the chat pod as well. But again, thank you, Greg. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And actually, we'll see you tomorrow night at Mocktails.
That was great. Thanks so much. Go Mocs.
This was
Bye,
great.
everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks, Megan.
Thanks. See ya.
Thank
Bye.
you so much. That was wonderful.
Great. Thank you, guys.